What if Deku had a zombification quirk, Halloween edition, Halloween special? Don't know what I'm gonna title it yet. So the like goal for this bad boy is gonna be 25 likes or whatever. And for each part, we're doing about 3 parts of this. So each part, we get all those 3 parts and hit all those like goals. I'll do a guaranteed movie version, but we will do the story until it's a completion. And if we surpass the like goal, that will also prompt me to potentially release the part 2 a lot quicker. So theoretically we can get through the whole story within like a day or like 2 days, because I'll have to spread it out a little bit. But besides that, let's get into it. This story is going to be short and simple. If we do the movie, if we do the extended version, which is after the movie version, if we get to that point, that one will be probably where I do a little more detail, flesh out the story. So we can consider this more as like a rough draft, sort of speaks. All right, let's get into it. So this version of Deku is different, right? We see bro spawn in around the time like he's 4, like 4 or 5, give or take, right? And this version of Deku is big different because he didn't just wake up with his power. It wasn't just something that came out of like the ether, right? No. He survived a zombie apocalypse, okay? And his decisions made a big, heavy impact overall for the way he is and why he's the way he is. One minute decision changed so much for the world he lives in. But enough of that. We're going to fast forward through a good chunk of this, all right? So Deku struggling throughout his life and stuff, wanting to be a hero, but people are, I don't know what it's called, but what you're going to say, the quirkist, all right? Because like his appearance do change bit to bit. Like his skin's a little more on the paler side and stuff like that. So he doesn't look fully normal, if that makes sense. He's got, like, I want y'all to imagine when we're talking about this quirk, I want y'all to kind of like imagine more like a vampire kind of like thing when it comes to like affections and all that type of stuff, but in the sense of like zombies, right? Like sentient zombies, okay? So bro is struggling with like the concept of wanting to be a hero, like throughout like how the story would play out, or like throughout the story playing out, it's constantly the thought of like I want to be a hero, I want to be a hero, and he just keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. The onslaught of insults being hurled his way by Bakugo, saying like, "Oh, you freak, you brain eating, you flesh bag, you mindless," all of it. It's exhausting. It's peaking. His anger is growing and growing and growing. His quirk, he has a quirk, but one of the things that was never really explained in the My Hero verse, right, was the simple fact of people that have quirk that alter their appearance. People already look at crazy for people that have different skin colors, let alone a different appearance that make them look like a monster straight out of like a horror film. And so he's struggling with that thought of being a hero and dealing with all of this, right? So now we're going to go over Deku's training and basically get some of that quirk information out of the way. Now we'll probably do like a sub special where I go over like it's literally just a video of me going over all the stuff with his quirk. But here we go. So Deku's learning, he spent a lot of years learning martial arts, learning all sorts of fighting styles and stuff like that throughout the short little time. But also when he was in this zombie apocalypse, okay, he learned a lot of stuff. So he's already, one, knowing how to fight, understanding the aspect of combat, understanding all of these important variables, if that makes any sense. So it's not like he's new to this, right? He's just getting more accustomed to his new old body, because now he has powers. He didn't have powers initially, or did he? So he's getting more and more accustomed to this, and he's learning how his quirk works. The quick explanation is like the more he dies, the more his zombification increases, right? So if he gets his arm cut off, his zombification only increases by like 15, a little bit percent, right? But the more and more he takes, more and more damage, it increases. So zombification, which I'll eventually just start saying percentages, because zombification it's a long time to say. But it goes up, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. And then 100% is when he becomes not animalistic, because I thought about going that route when I made this story like a year or two back. when he became like very animalistic, and then he just loses all rationale and stuff like that. No. That's too simple. Okay, this is more of a Deku that is he becomes more of, this is where the vampire example comes into play. He becomes more of a subhuman. You're just food. You are what you view pigs and cattle to be. That's what you are to me. It becomes more of this like mindset. And then he also has legitimate power to back up these like thoughts. It's just like, I'm a superior being. You're a sub life form, a sub species. It's this whole like shebang. Okay. So he doesn't really have much problems with many people besides like the people just discriminating just based off of him, being the way he is. And he's honing his skills, and he learned something. One of these days when he's training out in the fields, when he's training out in the woods, because that's where I always have my training scenes at, is he learned, like, he was dealing, this was like when he was a little bit younger, like 10 give or take. He was training, practicing, getting used to it, because you got to remember, this Deku has a slew of unique abilities, because this was the hardest part coming up with this particular what if. He's able to rip limbs off. He's able to project his bones out and stuff like that. But that also coincides with the higher levels of zombification and what he's able to do. But for the simplest explanation on like the shortcut, it's literally he's immortal. Even if his head gets hit, he's immortal as long as for basically as long as he needs to be, if that makes sense. Because like if he loses a heart, he's still good, bro. Like, he's still alive. Everything's still A-okay. And he just regrows it back. It's not like an inherently instant process, but overall, he's chilling. He realized that he can affect other people, bite them, and then they have their own zombification process too. But there's a couple of sub things that I would like to mention. The higher the zombification, the more he has access to these said people's abilities or said things' abilities, right? So the rule and thought or the logic behind this is if he gets a bear, by default, he gets X amount of their abilities. So he gets like enhanced senses, gets some bear claws, like he's able to produce these types of things. And then he's also able to mimic some of like their movements and stuff like that. The more percentage, the more of a, he's able to do this. He's also able to, if he did outright eat their brains, he would basically regain all their memories, all their experiences and stuff like that. But at the cost of these people not being themselves and just becoming mindless zombies, which theoretically that would have its own use. Like if, later on in the story, it has its own uses for what that can be used for. This also would be a good way of passing down knowledge to the, next generation. Passing that knowledge on to the next generation, and that person's dead now because like they're dead. But then again, we're not gonna sit here and make sure everything's plot related, like everything's perfect. So Deku learns this, cool. Now Deku's done a lot of training and stuff like that. He talks to All Might and stuff like that. We're gonna have a similar kind of like little discussion. Sludge villains are not that important, so we're not even gonna waste time with the sludge villain. He has a similar talk, but the talk goes a little different. Like All Might's kind of awesome, like, you need to be assembling. People gotta, basically, it's kind of like the religion theory where, like, people make their God looks like them because, like, that's just how humans work. So it's kind of like that. And then that's something All Might kind of says. And, like, Deku's like, oh. And then as this is happening, which throughout this whole story, one of the recurring themes that you hear from Deku, like, you don't hear too many thoughts, but one of the thoughts is, I want to be a hero. I want to be a hero. So this is one of those thoughts you hear. I want to be a hero. And each time it's conveying different levels of emotion. And that's like really the killer. That's really like the big damaging aspect of it all. So now we bypass all of that, right? We get into the entrance exam, right? And this Deku, some time passed because that we could say that stuff happened a little sooner, but a lot happened in such a short time. We bypassed this, and Deku's gotten a lot more comfortable with his like higher percentages. He's gotten a lot more used to it or whatever. And you know, he would have designed a suit that allowed him to control his zombification, because he technically is normal until he zombifies. But he was like, he didn't really need that, because he just primarily, because what Deku was able to do is heal, right? So he's able to like punch trees and start punching stuff harder. His skin comes off damn near, but he's able to just get to like the bone. Like, this is gonna be a weird side point, but have you ever like had like an itch or like something felt weird and you just wanted to like open your skin up and just scratch or remove or something like that? He's theoretically able to do such things, all right? Practically speaking. So Deku ready, he's raring to go. Like he got his, he don't really need combat gear, because he is the gear. So he's ready to go. And then unlike everyone else, he doesn't wait for no countdown. And then you also do hear comments about people talking about like how bro's a little, you know, like, oh, is that the, you know, little talks, but he just kind of ignores it. Uraraka sees this and she's like, hey guys, that's not very nice. And, you know, the little anime girl pouting and shit. And then the guys, oh, we're sorry. I didn't know you could hear us. Kind of like little gag thing goes. Deku, he locking in, bro. He doing some Goku stretches and stuff, getting nice and ready, bro. And then boom, he starts off, and then you know, President Mike's like, there's no starter in a real battle. Boom, he goes out. He hem. And then we're talking about a skilled Deku that has basically 2 lifetimes almost, no, a lifetime and some change of fighting, combat, weaponry. He's experienced in all of this, right? And then you're like, he doesn't have weapons though. He does, but not right now. And so he comes in and he just starts mashing all these bots up, bro. Just bim. Everybody's going in. It's become like a big ass free for all. That's pretty much it for this part. Then we get into the 0 point, right? But this is a little different. Uraraka's leg got hurt a lot more, so she really can't move for real, right? So what ended up happening is Deku knows that he has to zombify so he can able to help her. So what he does is, because he already took a little bit of damage, so he's like at like a really low 15% give or take. He starts booking it towards her, and then like he winds his arm back and just basically hits the rock with like a smash, but not really. But it's just the best way to describe it. Smashes the rock. Uraraka's like, I can't get up. So Deku picks her up and then just kind of like Kobe's her a little bit, but like nothing crazy, but he Kobe's her a little bit of the way. And then like, but like he couldn't do too much because he's still a normal human. So I'll just say she's like a few feet away. Robot steps on him, right? And the test is still going. So they don't stop it for whatever reason. The thing didn't work, it doesn't matter, plot reason. Boom, Deku gets crushed, right? Everyone's like, oh, geez, Will, robot's still trying to go, right? But then something weird happens. Everyone stops. Everything freezes. As Nezu's about to press the button, everything freezes, and you just feel this ominous feeling. You feel like a rabbit amongst the wolves. You feel like a deer or gazelle amongst the lions, and you can't move, and purple, like, not energy, but kind of like purple presence shoots up from the robot, right? And then all you see is like the robot's leg just getting kind of like, you just see it shaking, and then you see the robot just, and then from the top, you just see basically, it's kind of like how Aaron was with the when he came out the Titan, right? You just see bro coming out, and then it would have a pop-up 60% zombification, and then you just hear this like roar, but it doesn't sound like it's one thing. It sounds like it's a herd of things. And you just hear this animalistic primal Deku's coming out, you know, and then just his eyes. Oh, that's one of the things I never did say. So his normal eyes are green like normal, right? But the more and more his zombification goes, his eyes changes color. So it was like at like the later percents all the way to like 60, it's like a clean yellowish kind of like tint. And then when it starts getting more to that end point, it becomes like this weird orangish kind of color. And then like once you get to like a certain point, it's like this weird cat-like reddish. I forgot exactly what the color is, but the point is the colors change correspondingly. So it's like you're just seeing like this dude become going from the prey to the predator to the apex predator. That's kind of the thought process I was having when I was making it initially. So he comes out this robot, right? And you just see his skin is like it's a very good solid shade of a like gray. His voice is deeper. His presence is like a lot more noticeable. And then it's just like he speaks and his mannerisms have changed and wavered so differently. So he pops out the robot. Basically, he just basically smacks the robot out, right? He already took, messed up some of its insides, and then he just jumps up and just bam. He doesn't destroy the robot in its entirety. He just smacks the robot like back down, and like we'll say he like breaks the neck and the head, and then like it falls down and it can't move. Everyone's still frozen because, like, if you remember when One for All was introduced the first time, how no one could move because it was so scared. It's kind of like that, but a little bit more on steroids. And there's a difference feeling. You're not feeling like you're dying. You feel like you're in the presence of like some type of thing that isn't supposed to be here. So Deku's walking, right? He's like, Uraraka, are you okay? And he reaches out his hand. He's like, let me help you get to recovery, girl. Uraraka's terrified. And she sees the glow in his eyes, the suffocating pressure of his presence, and she reaches out her hands, but she retracts her hand and recoils, and what could believe to be disgust, fear, panic, and all sorts of emotions. And Deku looks down, and all he can say in his head is, I want to be a hero. No tears were shed upon that moment. He walked, said, very well then. He wanted to make the comment of, so if I was to die, I would have died for nothing in vain. I find this amusing, but he realized that was pointless. Everyone comes, the recovery girl steps aside as he walks, and everyone lines the fuck back as he walks through. Deku's still livid and goes to like, I'll say there's like not the hood, but I'll say there's like an area where like most of these people with alternate quirks kind of chill out, and it's like a toxic environment because like if you're shunned by society, you're probably gonna be a little toxic in its own regard. So bro goes over there and like he basically swaps and meets, drops all these people because they keep trying to test his gangster or whatever, and he's just sitting there mewing. All you can hear him say is, I want to be a hero. I want to be a hero. I want to be a hero. This is still 60%. Like, it takes a minute before it goes back down. So it's not like an immediate, he's up, he's all the way up, and then he goes back down. No. He's stagnant there for a little bit unless he gets more zombification. So that happens. 2 weeks pass. You would also get like a little something of like Uraraka feeling all guilty and stuff about like how she did that and stuff, and Deku's just brewing over it, and he just continues with his training. But then also you would see this version of Deku, like you would see him practicing something that wouldn't be specified, as you see tigers and all sorts of different animals. You see rats and rodents, and you're seeing all these different types of animals, and he's testing out all the applications of his quirk. So now we would fast forward all the way up until the training where they're like fighting against each other. So Bakugo is like livid or whatever, right? And then he tells All Might, he looks All Might in the eye, and he's already at like 25% zombification, right? Because this is technically something he can control. He looks at All Might and he says, All Might, I have a vendetta against that one name. His voice isn't as deep, so it's more like a All Might. I do have a vendetta against the one that is known Bakugo Katsuki. I'm telling you now, as his eyes flare like a really bright, ominous green. If you stop the match, my vengeance will be very severe, okay? And so All Might keeps that in mind, and he's like, why was that kid? Wait, am I sweating? That kid's pressure, that kid's aura reminds me of him. That's kind of how All Might would feel. So the training thing begins and all like normal, right? And then he tries to still be, I want to be a hero. So he tries to come up with a strategy, but Uraraka's like kind of scared of him and stuff, right? And he's like, okay, so Bakugo, he's not calling him Kanchan because he's in that 25%. So he was like, Bakugo is probably going to try to come at me. So And then he's like, so if you do this, and he's trying to explain, and then he spins at her saying, you ready, partner? And then like she looks at him, just kind of coils back and recoils, and he's like, 35%, zombification, 35%. His eyes become more tinted, and he says, I want to be a hero, in his head. And he's like, very well then. If you will not work with me, that's very fine. I don't need a sub. It's okay. I don't need the help. Bakugo comes in talking mad heavy, mad like, oh, I'm big him, right? Oh, I'm gonna show you. And then Deku walks out, and then he's like, buddy, give me your best shot. And he's like, what? Give me your best shot. And then Bakugo start trying to blast out explosions, and body parts are going everywhere, blood's going everywhere, bones sharp, just bam, 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 bam. I'm gonna be the strongest. I'm gonna be the greatest hero. No, man, there's no one that can stop me. I am ultimate. And then you could just see Deku just. You can see the tendons. You can see the bones reforming. You can just see it all, and you can just see his eyes ever so slightly changing into like a more of an orangish hue, and then you could just see him, and he's just like, and like Deku lost a good chunk of his clothes, but he still got like shorts on. It's almost like Goku's battle gi damage kind of look. So he just like regenerates in like this cool else like crouching pose and shit, and he's just like 65% zombification. He's like 3, 2, 1, and then the little things ring, and he's like, is that all you got? I didn't know you were just shooting out. I don't know what like an insult would be for like explosions, like you're just shooting out these little pop rocks explosions or something. Like I don't know. I mean, most people probably don't even know what that is now. It's the candy. So anyways, he's like, oh, really? Bet. And then he's like, I'll show you. Die, bastard. Or die, flashback, or something like really like that. And then boom, big ass explosion. Deku was about to dodge it because it's so easy. But then he looks back and sees the rocket just kind of like not moving. And he's just like, very well then. He puts both of his hands out, kind of like covering them up a little bit. And he's just like, let me see. And then this explosion was a lot more than what it was in canon, because this version of Bakugo's a lot mad because he already was insecure of Deku in canon, so this insecurity has been amplified because of how scary and stuff like that bro is. Explosion goes out everywhere, boom. And then like, the building really, took a shook or whatever, and they're like, oh no. And then All Might's like about to say something like, you need to stop. And then like he just sees Deku's presence, but he also sees the silhouette of One for All, and he's like shaking. And then like, Red Riot is like, yo, All Might, are you gonna stop that? Because that Baka dude guy, that dude's crazy, blah blah blah. And he's like, he doesn't. It's like, if it becomes really bad, I'll stop it in a moment, dear. Let's just see how this plays out. And then one like Momo or somebody is like, oh, I get it. You want to see what our full capabilities are and then coach us accordingly. And he's like, yes, exactly. And then basically it's like he got saved by the plot, okay? Bakugo's talking heavy. He's like, I am the absolute. All you hear, right? Zombification, 80%. And then Deku, basically he's almost naked, but he's not. Like, he's still got stuff covering like his crotch and stuff. Like he got like damn near not booty shorts, but like it's kind of like that. That's like all his clothing that's left, right? But you see like this, like almost like in between of like Japanese skin color and gray, but like it's more heavily leaning more towards the gray, right? And then he's got like this his body's slightly taller, the physique, the muscles are there, and he just walks out the smoke. And he's just like, I don't know why the cattle likes to talk the way they do, move the way they move, think the way they think. It is utterly insufferable. And he's like, wait, what? How did you survive that? Well, let's see how you do it. And before he could react, he just... Bro's arm is shattered. Like, he kept it intact. But his arm's gone, and his little gauntlet's gone. He's, what? And then he looks him bro in the dead in the eyes and says, what's wrong? I thought you were the ultimate power. I thought you were superior to all, reigned over everything. Isn't that what you said when you bullied me? And just flicks him. Boom. Yeah. And then before he could even react, he gets flicked again. Right back to where they started and then grabbed. He's like, oh, what's the matter, buddy? I thought you were better than that. And I'll say he flicked the other side of the gauntlet, so he still technically has the gauntlet, right? And so then he doesn't know he got captured, right? And then Bakugo's like, you bastard! And then he tries to shoot the other one again, and then poof, poof. And then a big explosion happens again, but not nearly as big, right? And Bakugo's like, I got him, right? And then you see like a hole in Deku, right? The hole starts to regenerate, and you see Bakugo's face in the hole of like complete fear and terror. Zombification, 100%, right? And then the hole shrinks back down, and then you see with merely just a pinky, he reflected back the explosion, and it all ended. Not only did it partially dissipate because he couldn't catch it all, not only did it all damn near dissipate or whatever, right? It also went outside upwards. He's like, He turns around, and then he's like about to release his explosion, and then bro flicks his hand back, and the air pressure dislocates his shoulder and breaks everything, right? And he's like, Ooh, my bad. I seem not to know my strength when dealing with such fragile creatures. But buddy, you've been captured a long time ago. He's like, wait, when the fight started, don't you not remember when I threw the first punch? But you didn't listen to me. Because like, I'll say he was trying to tell him, but he didn't listen. He was like, hey, by the way, shut up, you flesh bag. Bam, right? So that happened. Uraraka's terrified. He tries to extend out his hand one more time for Uraraka. He's like, shall you accompany me? And he's like, she doesn't say anything. Bro jumps out the window, digs into his back, and with a slight, like, not screech, but like a call of some kind, he rips the spinal cord out, blood gushing out, and just this sinister look appears on his face with his eyes fully red with the, like in the center of the pupils, it's like this yellowish hue with an outer line of like orange. But like, I don't know how to make that look scary, but that's kind of like what I'm thinking of. He pulls out his spinal cord. I mean, his whole spine muscle, whips it at like supersonic speed, or at least that's what it looks like. Whips it, and then just launches himself right into the building, right? With minimum damage. Boom, pops through. And then he just stands and releases his presence, and everyone can feel it. Everyone is, some people almost passed out. A lot of people are down on their knees. And All Might is shaking. I mean, he shook because he thought One for All presence was bad. No, this made that shit look like child's play, bro. And then he walks up, and then from Deku's POV, all he did, he knows what he's doing, but because I mean, it's just his presence. So he knows what he's doing, but from his POV, he just walked up, hit the bomb, right? But like the way he came in, he had to walk past Ida, right? But for Ida's perspective, much more terrifying. You just see this thing, this entity walk through, and all you hear is, I'm sorry, but I'm going to need to come this way now. So feel free to stop me if you may, but I don't advise such actions. I'm not in the mood to play with my food. I'm not in the mood to deal with foolishness or anything of the magnitude. Please understand this and make this quick. And then as Deku reaches out his hand, don't worry, you won't feel any pain. I am very merciful upon such inferior species. And then, but Ida, he's seen the hand. He's already feeling like he's a gazelle in the jaws of a lion. He feels like a rabbit with the wolves. He's already feeling like he's been captured. He already feels like it's done for. He's done. He's cooked, right? And then, all you hear, he pats it, and then it's literally the team such and such has won. They all do their matches, but the matches are like oddly weird. Like it's like everyone's out of whack just because of like the raw presence and the residual force that is left from Deku. So then that happens. Most of what happens in canon happens normally, and then everyone's just like passively like talking about it while Deku isn't there, and he's just working on his training. And you also see him doing some more stuff with his pets. And then all you hear, right, is like he like has nothing around him, and it's like the day before he goes to school or something, and all you hear him say is the screen goes black as he takes the stance, and then all you hear him say is one thing: zombie apocalypse.